life again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, joined tonight by Ross Gregory, who's hot-footed it back from the train station. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I've been down in London the last couple of days, so landed back about 45 minutes or so ago. So, yeah, quick hot foot from the station into the office, so all good.
Good stuff, and COVID floored you a bit last week as well. How was that, mate?
It did, yeah. I thought that had all gone. I thought we were done and dusted with COVID, but it's back. It's COVID too. It's the return of COVID. Yeah, absolutely wiped us out last Tuesday, Wednesday as well. But yeah, don't worry, you can't catch it down the TV or down the
internet. No problem, mate. Well, good to have you back anyway, and glad to see you back on firing on all cylinders. As Newcastle were at the weekend, Ross, great result, 4-1 away win at Fulham, and a comprehensive team performance.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously aided and abetted by the early red card, by the dismissal of Shelvey, which obviously had an impact, but you've still got to then go and make the most of that advantage. And Newcastle did so, with a really kind of professional and accomplished performance. Even before the red card, I think that they'd shown enough in them first, 5, 6, 7 minutes to suggest that they were up for the game, that they were on the best form, that they were at the top of the game. They created a couple of little instances even before the red card, and they were first to balls. They were very, very positive. What was really pleasing for me was, I think, when a team goes down to 10 men, sometimes it's a cliche, but it sometimes it makes the game a little bit harder. And what Newcastle have struggled to do recently, as we all know, is kind of break teams down, create chances, or be clinical in that final third. But they absolutely were that on Saturday. The movement was great. The 1 and 2 touch passing was excellent. The finishing was really good as well. So all in all, a really, really good day out. Which it could have been one of them tricky games down at Fulham. But we seem to always, recently we've got some good results down there. So long may it continue.
Yeah, long may it continue. Callum Wilson, a new contract as well, Ross. Little clause in his contract, which meant that if he went past a certain amount of games, etc., he'd get a bit of an extension and probably a little bit more money, I dare say, as well. But it's great news because, he is a bit of a talisman for Newcastle. When he's on the pitch, he scores goals. We've just got to learn how to keep him fit. Yes.
Yeah, look, he's a fantastic addition to Newcastle over the last couple of years. Anytime that he's fit and firing, he produces pretty much. He leads that line really well. He's a goal threat. He's mobile. He's pacey, but he in and around the kind of 6 and 18 yard box, he comes alive as well. So I think he's really important for the way that Eddie Howe wants to play, and he knows the style of football that Eddie Howe wants from Newcastle. Mainly as well because he's played for under Eddie Howe previously at Bournemouth, so need to keep him fit, need to keep him on the pitch. I thought it was the right call to give him to get him off, midway through the second half. To be honest, I probably would have brought him off a little bit earlier in terms of protecting him and wrapping him completely in cotton wool. But he got some good minutes. He got himself a goal. He probably would have wanted to stay on and try to get another couple, given the way the game was panning out. But yeah, absolutely need to wrap him in cotton wool and keep him on the pitch. And when they do, he just provides that kind of focal point. He provides that outlet, that goal threat that without him, Newcastle are still sorely missing.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's just keeping him fit is the key, and good to see him back amongst the goals. Another striker, segueing nicely into a striker. Barry Hogan's making this point. He says, just reading the comments from my most hated Toon player ever, Michael Owen, how much he hated coming to Newcastle and was desperate to leave as soon as he got there. Can the little tour rag shut up about NUFC? And he asks a question, is he the biggest waste of space that we ever signed? Have you seen it, Ross? Because I watched it myself today. I've seen people sharing it, and I had to find a little bit of time. It seems as if it was done in some kind of BT Sport program where he was asked about the move to Newcastle and the work through your career in the shape of the shirts that you wore as a player. And wow, God, he just didn't want to come to Newcastle is basically what he was telling everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's no surprise there, is there? I think even at the time when Newcastle signed him, I think everybody knew that he'd rather have gone elsewhere. He'd rather have gone back to Liverpool. He'd rather have gone somewhere else. He didn't, and he should have come here and been really ultra professional and come and done a job. And what winds me up is even now is that no, he still hasn't really got anything good to say. It's just have a little digs here, little pops there. It's a real, for me, it's an interesting kind of case because signing players and if we look at what the current ownership are looking to do, and they're going to spend a lot of money and have done already, but you've got to bring the right characters in. You've got to bring people in for the right reasons, who want to be here for the right reasons, not because they're picking up a big fat paycheck, not because they're putting themselves in a shop window for somebody else, for another club, or trying to get themselves fit to go to a World Cup or whatever. They need to be here for the right reasons. And Michael Owen wasn't here for the right reasons. He was here because he had to get out of Madrid. Nobody else was willing to stump up the money at the time. When he was fit and flying, and he was a hell of a player. There's no doubt at all. Michael Owen was a fantastic player, but he just didn't want to be here. Didn't want to graft or put his neck on the line for the club, put his body on the line for the club. Certainly in that relegation season. And now just let it go, Michael. Just crack on. Just let it go. You don't need to keep getting the cheap shots in and cheap digs in. And it's a shame because we've seen players who've come and on less money with less kind of less status, if you like, who've come and they've really taken to the northeast and taken to the area and adopted it, and a lot of them still live up here or still find it it's somewhere that they want to keep coming back to, every month or every few months because they love it up here. But he just wasn't bothered, wasn't interested in good riddance to bad rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, it was a strange move, and just hearing him say that, he was almost in control of the deal as well. He was more or less saying, well, he was speaking to Liverpool and saying, if you can come back in with a £12 million deal, I'll try and do something my end, and I just don't want to go to Newcastle. And I thought, wow, what an attitude to have, when a club puts a £60 million bid in for you, has faith, wants to bring you here. And then here, when he was at Newcastle, the agreement that Newcastle actually did was that they would keep him for a year, and that they would then sell him to Liverpool for 12 million if Liverpool were interested in him. And then if he had to stay another year, they would have to sell him for 10 million. And if they stayed another year, it would drop another 2 million, and so on and so forth. But what scuppered his plan was ultimately the injury that he sustained for England, which meant that, they went out and signed Fernando Torres, etc. And basically, he was a forgotten man. I mean, he eventually got his wish. He managed to get to another big club at the time, Manchester United, and obviously, win a cup. Of all the clubs to go to. Talk about selling your soul when you're a Liverpool fan. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think he does himself any favours, mate. I really don't, Ross. I really don't. I just wish he would stop talking about Newcastle.
I 100% agree. Just you had a great career, Michael. You played at a fantastic level. You've achieved things that a lot of footballers could only dream of achieving. Don't just go out and have a bit of class. Just have a little bit of class about yourself and just move on, do whatever you need to do. But yeah, I think he's probably quite. I find some of the things that he says and some of the comments that he makes, I almost find them it feels as if he's hurt, as if he's kind of having to fight back, and when it sticks and stones, when somebody calls you a name and when you're a kid and you go, yeah, but you smell worse. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of attitude with him where Newcastle fans haven't taken to him and don't like him for multitude of reasons, and rightly so. And it feels now like he's just having to pop back just because he has to save face, or he has to do this or the other. Just move on, Michael. Have a bit of class and crack on with your life, man.
Yeah, that's basically what he needs to do. A couple of comments on this before we finish off. A talented, high-profile player, and yet not popular with fans at any club he's played at. That tells you something. And Tim says, even in all, Michael Owen was a mindless mercenary, the worst of a pro footballer. And Colin says, correct, Ross. Just look at our players now, totally committed. And Colin also says he stuck the knife in Shearer. And Roger says he should stick to the horses. Michael Owen is the Alan Partridge of football, says Tom. We'll leave it at that. Okay, John Askew says, lads, what are the chances of City not winning the league? Around 10% possibly? Hardly a healthy situation for the competition side of the Premier League. And he also says, with this in mind, surely our takeover was a good thing, as in 2 or 3 years we might be starting to compete up there. In Man City, I mean, they're on cruise control at the minute, and I mean that was a thrashing that they handed out to the neighbours, wasn't it?
It was a devastating performance, and you can't say anybody stopping them this season for 2 or 3 reasons. They're comfortably been the best team over the last 2 or 3 years. Liverpool, to be fair, Liverpool have kept pace with them almost. They won the title a couple of years ago as well. So between the two of them, that I've said this before, I think the two, when they were on their best form a couple of seasons ago, I've not seen 2 better teams in the Premier League. Going back 30 years that the Premier League's been around, I've not seen better teams. City now have lifted this on another level though, because they've signed arguably the best striker in the world. The best kind of goal scorer in the world. That it just completes this team for them. In Haaland coming in, he's just an absolute beast, absolute monster. If he stays fit, he'll hit 50 goals this season if he stays fit, and they will absolutely walk the league because of the talented players that they've got who supply the bullets from you, De Bruyne's and your Fodens and so on and so forth. They've got so much talent in that team. Now they've got a guy who just wants to score goals, who just wants to score hat-tricks. They're unstoppable at the minute. I really can't see anybody else stopping them. Whether it's good for the Premier League or not, you can argue not. You can argue, I would hate to see the Premier League become what the Bundesliga has become, where Bayern Munich win it every year, or to a lesser extent what it's like in Scotland. You always have these teams where they will dominate for an era, and this is City's era, undoubtedly. It won't last forever. Guardiola's not going to hang around forever. Haaland's not probably going to be in the Premier League in 5 years' time as well. He'll probably do his stint, and then he'll move on to La Liga and collect some pots and some prizes and more goals in that league. So Newcastle's time and Liverpool's time and Man United's time and everybody else's time, it'll come again. But at the minute, nobody's stopping City. Absolutely nobody.
No, definitely not. I've got to ask you this question. Do you think they'll be Newcastle and Man City will be rivals in a couple of years' time?
It's a really good question, that one, Steve. I think maybe it's not 2 or 3, but I think Newcastle will hopefully chip away at the gap, bring it closer. Look, there's only one team at the that draw that Newcastle got this season against City looks like a hell of a performance and a hell of a result at the minute when they're demolishing teams right, left, and centre. So I think Newcastle, with really, really good recruitment, with really smart management, they can certainly close the gap on that kind of top 4, top 6. City will fall away at some point, but not for me, not for another 3 or 4 years. It's going to take a hell of a lot for somebody to get close to City again in the next 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah, I would say Newcastle, will, certainly make progress over the next few years. It would be great to think we are competing up there. But yeah, as you said, that was a hell of a performance that Newcastle put in, against Man City this season. And I said this, it gives us hope. If we get to the League Cup final, for example, and we play Man City, we've got nothing to be afraid of. We know if we can put in a performance if luck's on our side as well, we might just have that opportunity to beat the best team in the world at this moment in time, I think.
One-off games, anything can happen, Steve. And Newcastle can do that against City on a one-off game. Went toe-to-toe with Liverpool. Obviously, I don't want to get doing it consistently over the course of a season is a very different prospect. But I think, cups are certainly an avenue Newcastle should really be positive in this year. Put strong teams out. Let's go for it. Let's try and get to the latter stages, get to a final, pick up some silverware, because on the day, I think they can go toe to toe with most teams if they've got the best starting 11 out. If your Callum Wilsons and your St. Maximans and your Brunos and everybody are fit, then there's no reason to say on the day, look at what Leicester have done over the last couple of 3 seasons. When they've picked up cups and stuff like that. No reason why Newcastle shouldn't be doing that consistently on the league basis. It'll take a long time to get up to City's level, I do think, in terms of actually challenging for the Premier League. But it's a long-term project that they've got in mind at Newcastle, and we're a year on Thursday it is, a year on Friday I think it is, since the takeover. The progress that's been made in the last 12 months is incredible, and long may it continue.
Yeah, okay. Trolls, good evening. Says we need to start Botman in every match. He is class. Decided not to play the international football this window in the last couple of weeks, and concentrate on getting back into the team, and and concentrating on his club. I mean, went down well with the fans, that particular line. He's a colossus, this guy. This guy is our Van Dijk. I've said this. And Dan Burn, I mean, we're in this position where on this show, we probably, for the last couple of years, have just said the best centre-half, and a lot of the dream teams, Jonathan Woodgate's featured. Yes. I think if people could do their dream teams again, probably Botman and Burn would feature. But Botman is a beast, mate. And he's only a young lad, 22-year-old. He's got the world at his feet, this kid. And I think we've got a bargain here. I really do.
Yeah, he's you can't fault the start that he's made. I don't think you can fault Eddie Howe's management style in terms of how he's brought him in. He's bedded him in, brought him in for a few games, and then he's took him out just because he wants to give Dan Burn a role a bit more centrally, and also probably just to protect Botman a little bit as well, just to take him out the firing line every now and again, and just say, look, you cost a lot of money. You've got loads of potential. You're a hell of a player, but you're going to need protecting a little bit. You're not going to nail this. You're only 22. You're not going to nail this Premier League in one fell swoop. You will have some periods where he'll have ups and downs. He'll come up against a Haaland or I don't know, a Jamie Vardy who'll just run off the back of him, or clever movement and stuff like that, where he'll maybe have a couple of games where it doesn't go for him. But yeah, the potential is absolutely there, and you can see, I think, already why Newcastle were so insistent, so persistent in terms of chasing him from January through to July, obviously August when they finally got him.
And to be honest, I mean, I'm looking ahead slightly to the Brentford game, but I've said this already on the show a couple of times now. The rotation will continue, Ross. And I think the rotation will continue at the weekend. I think he will look at the Brentford game as a completely separate entity. He'll probably look and think, okay, they've got a couple of fast players, who could do us a little bit of damage at the weekend. Ivan Toney, I think we've got enough to cope with either Dan Burn, Botman, and Shaw. One of those will sit out. And I think Targett will probably come back in and play alongside Trippier in the fullback roles. So for me, I think there'll be changes. I could be completely wrong. ASM could come back in for Murphy. I mean, I think those are the two changes. I think that would be it. I think there'll be two changes at the weekend. But yeah, I think there will be rotation in the back four for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's got options, hasn't he? He's got options, and he's going to have to try and keep as many players happy as he possibly can. But I agree with you, Steve. I don't think he's just going to go and say, right, this is the team, and the team picks itself. There'll be games where he might want to go a bit more physical, and he can do. Maybe other games where he wants to go a little, bit more creative, and he can do. There's obviously clearly options that he's got at left back. Matt Targett sitting out, with 3 left backs on the bench on Saturday, and got a couple of them on. So there's he's got options there, and I do think he will. I think you're right. I do think he will rotate it. Ultimately, he will want to get as strong and as settled a side as what he possibly can. But when you've got good players in a multitude of different positions and multitude of options, then you've got to try to use them as best as what you can.
BT says, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, PIF had revealed they could have invested in a different club, albeit for less than a majority stake. When he looked at it, we looked at it from a financial perspective. He said, yeah, it was interesting to hear him pop up on a Saudi-based podcast. And they did have other opportunities. I mean, I know from my dealings with Amanda and Mierdad in the period building up to Newcastle being taken over that, Chelsea was an option at one point for PIF, but the asking price that Roman Abramovich had wanted was far too much, you know what I mean? And, when you can buy a team and a club in the Premier League for, a lot less and who have a better fan base, loyaler fan base and can do so much more with, then they're clearly not going to spend billions as opposed to millions on a football club. But yeah, it was interesting to hear him speak. It's something Ben Jacobs, who we had on this morning, has often said he'd like to hear more from PIF. He'd love them to come out and have a conversation at some point. I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure it will. When they get closer to the big event, in Saudi 2030, I think we'll probably will hear more from them. But at the moment, they employ people to speak for them. But it was nice to hear like those kind of words, a little bit of an insight into the takeover as the anniversary approaches on Friday.
Yeah, it was. There was a couple of interesting lines in there, I thought, as well. Obviously the line that's been mentioned there about, they could have invested, 700 million into another club and got just a kind of minority stake and had no real kind of say or sway or control over the over the decision making process. That's not what they want as well. But what I found quite interesting, the talk of making a profit as well. And I know our PIF aren't going to own Newcastle for the next 50, 100 years or whatever. But it read to me that yes, this is a financial kind of transaction for them as well, and they want to come into the club and they want to generate some money, and at some point they'll sell the club and they want to sell that club for a hell of a lot more money than what they've paid for it. Now that's only going to happen if the club's in a good, solid, strong financial position. It's doing well on the pitch. There's a reason why Chelsea went for so much. So they've got to get a lot of these things right, and it will. I'm not saying they're going to flip the club in 2 years' time, because they're clearly not. But it was interesting them talking about how they can build this club from a 350 million pound club up into a £3 billion club.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure which one that is, Tom. Send us it, mate, if you haven't already on Twitter. Tim C says, I watched Forest last night. We dodged a bullet with Lingard. He's dross. They're garbage, and they've got a one-way ticket back to the Championship. And Alan says, Ross and Steve, after watching Forest and Leicester last night, I'm so glad we didn't sign Lingard. He was shocking last night. Our draw against City looks better by the week. So, yeah, Lingard, everyone reckons we dodged a bullet. It's got to be difficult, though, not only moving to a new club, but a new club that signs 20-odd players.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like Jesse Lingard. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's probably lost his way a little bit, and it goes back a little bit to what we talked about with Michael Owen at the top of the show. You want to sign players for the right reasons. You want them coming to Newcastle for the right reasons, and I'm not convinced that Lingard was moving for the right reasons. He probably had his eye on other priorities, if you like, rather than just the football and what he could do on the pitch. He's not a bad player, though, but you're right. Going into 23, 27 players, how many they've signed, I've lost count. It's absolutely, absolutely mental amount of players. So I feel sorry for a lot of them players who are trying to gel and trying to bed in. I feel desperately sorry for Steve Cooper, the manager, because there's no way he's gone into the summer going and went into his owner and said, right, what I need this transfer window is 20-odd players, please, mate, and that I'll keep you up. He's having to juggle. He's having to try and pick his best team, fit a squad in. I'd love to see that change room. It must be massive. They must start to put a couple of extensions on that change rooms at Trent Bridge, at at the Trent. So it's mad. It's mad. I fear for them. I think they're in trouble. I think they're on their way. I think they're on their way down. I can't see Steve Cooper lasting as well. To be honest, I think he'll get the bullet. It's all a shame because there was no need for them to go to the extent that they've done it. But yeah, Lingard's not. He's not going to rip up any trees in that team, I don't think.
No. Tom Dixon says, Ross, the players we missed out on in the last transfer window, do you think we'll go back in for them with some new players? We asked Ben Jacobs this morning about Maddison, and he just says if the price is right, he still thinks Leicester will sell. But a lot of things to take into consideration there. Leicester haven't had the greatest of starts. Ben reckons that Leicester had given Brendan Rodgers 3 games starting last night. Well, he won last night comprehensively, but he has to win the next couple of games, otherwise he could be out on his ear. And then you might have a new manager in. I mean, we've got Rafa Benitez who's sitting on the sidelines waiting for a big job to come. Is he going to Wolves? Could he be going to Leicester if they sack Rodgers? But there will be some kind of merry-go-round go on. And of course, we've got the best manager in football, Steve Bruce, who probably will be out of a job in the next couple of weeks. Will also be looking for work. And he's already been linked with a Wolves job, believe it or not. Unbelievable, Jeff, if he goes straight out of West Brom and into Wolves. And I've got a few mates who are Wolves fans, but yeah, I will say a prayer that you do not get him. I really will. But yeah, look, I mean, Tom's question about ex-players, players that we didn't get in the transfer window in the summer, Maddison is still the name that is getting bandied around. I think we'd all love him to come to Newcastle. Are we getting further away from that deal, or do you think we're getting closer?
I think one of the problems is he needs to stop scoring goals. He needs to stop putting in these man of the match performances, because it just adds another 5 or 10 million onto his price tag every time he plays at the minute. He's and that'll be ultimately what it comes down to. It'll come down to the finances. Now, January is not an easy time to get deals done, to get to find bargains, and it's not an easy transfer window. Newcastle did fantastically well last January in terms of bringing some of the players that they did in. I think they'll certainly strengthen in January. I think they'll try to strengthen. They'll try to reinforce in a couple of key areas, so at the probably top end of the pitch, maybe elsewhere, depending on how injuries go and how the squad looks going into January. Maddison is just I think it's going to be a tough deal to do. Even in January, I think he'll have missed out. He's not going to go to the World Cup, I don't think. I can't see him going to the World Cup at all. That might just, I don't know, that might set a rabbit off with him. He might start pressing for a move elsewhere. But as well, if Maddison becomes available for transfer, Newcastle aren't going to be the only ones who will be in for him. Not on the form that he's shown. Not when if he continues to be the informed player in the Premier League, or one of the informed players in the Premier League, there's going to be a number of top clubs who'll be sniffing around him, who'll look and go, yeah, you can add something to my team, because the way he's playing at the minute, he probably fit into pretty much every team bar potentially City.
Big shout out to Ryan Sweeney back in the chat. Big supporter of the show. Often makes a donation. He hasn't been well, and it's great to see him back on the chat. He's a big supporter of all the stuff that I've done, to be honest. So Ryan, I hope you're well, mate. I hope you're making a good recovery. And I can see there's a lot of love in the chat for you. Quick break for us. We're going to do the ad break, and then we'll be back after this. A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead. Their phone number is 0191 478 2730. You can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or go to the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists based on Nunn Street. The GOHD.com is their website. And thanks again to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give them a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeastproperty and phil.reed_northeastproperty, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to the lads at Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. These are hot sauces, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or place an order by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks also to the lads at Blowhole Brewery, a fine amount of ales available from their website, www.blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the badge in the corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath this video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you to the membership section of the website. If you choose to go that way, then you will get a pen, a cup, a scarf, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw for a one-off payment of £25. We also give you something for free. If you want a car window sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will send you one if you are a subscriber. We also help the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the matchday bucket. If you go there, you can make a virtual donation at any time of the year. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School, October half term, Monday the 24th to Friday the 28th of October. You can book now, peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. Peter's also running Monday night training on the 26th of October. Again, the same website. And if you want to meet Peter Beardsley, well, you've got 3 chances. Newcastle Legends game, Friday, October the 14th. The Peter Beardsley talk-in is taking place after the game. Tickets for this are available from NUFCmatters.com. Adult admission is £5, junior admission is £2. The talk-in is adults only, and that is a tenner. And the events are all taking place at the Fox Hunters Pavilion in North Shields. We've got Peter Beardsley available, tickets available for the St Dom's Catholic Club show. You need to go straight to their website and you just buy your tickets there. And for this one at the Irish Centre, tickets are available now on NUFCmatters.com. Don't forget, Supermax at the Dog and Parrot, every pre-match and every post-match, every home game. And John Gibson and John Anderson are at Pumphrey's pre-match only. If you did like our true crime stuff, it has all migrated to the True Crime channel. So get yourself across there on YouTube and subscribe today. He's great, that lad who does the ads. Gives me a bit of a breather, and Ross. Steve Renforth says, what do we do with Miguel Almiron when Isaac and ASM and Wilson are fully fit? Eddie Howe gave you the answer to that, Stephen, in his press conference last weekend. It depends who impresses people impresses Eddie in training. They've all got an opportunity in training, Ross, haven't they? I guess. Yeah, and the other thing is that I'm not quite sure how often we'll have all those players fit and firing. That's the reason that you've got a squad. We've talked already about Rapman Wilson up in Cotton Bowl, and ASM always kind of has a few injury niggles and misses a few games. But yeah, it'll be based on form, be based on what Eddie Howe sees on the training ground, kind of Monday to Friday. He's been really impressive so far. Maybe let's be fair. He was one of those players who this time, I suppose, going into pre-season or even into the start of the season, Newcastle were looking for a right-sided attacker, looking for somebody who could play out on that right side, on that right flank, score goals. Almiron's position was absolutely in doubt. I thought he was really, really good in pre-season and worked hard and looked a threat. Then he's taken that into this season as well. I don't think he's ever going to be super consistent. He's never going to. I don't think he's going to be a player who's going to score you 15 goals in a season or create 15 chances or 15 goals. But he works hard. He offers an outlet. He's a real team player. He's pacey. It helps Newcastle with his pressing. The way he presses from the front is something that shouldn't be overlooked in terms of getting him in the team as well. He's great on the counter attack. I think he's somebody that obviously is listened to Eddie Howe, and you can see the improvement in him. And fair play, that goal he scored on Saturday. What a screamer that was! Yeah, it was. Maddison will only have a year left on his contract after the World Cup, says Chris. The clock is ticking for Leicester. Alan Thompson says that if Newcastle are close to the top four, we might be able to sell the dream to Maddison. You could then see that we're potentially heading for Europe. Good point. Yeah, I mean, look, from my perspective, I still think there's a chance to get Maddison, and I'd love him. It's one of those players that I've always wanted to come to Newcastle. Really like him, big fan. So let's hope we can get him. Tom says this is a glimpse into the future, though, where we have very good players who will miss out. That's what good teams have. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point to make, that, Tom, because ultimately, we want to be in that position. We want to have competition for places, and you have to perform to your best ability to get in the team, which is what this young man's going to have to do. Elliot Anderson, he got a bit of time on the pitch at the weekend. Didn't have a great deal to do. It's difficult coming on as a sub, I guess, as well, when so many substitutions are made at the same time. But he held his own, and Eddie Howe is, he's getting this player to where he wants him to be. He had a good season away on loan last season, but he's there or thereabouts. He's homegrown. He's in the Premier League, and ultimately, Phil Foden has taken time to develop at Man City. But look at him now. Over 50 goals in the first team for Man City, grabbing a hat trick in the Manchester derby at the weekend. Elliot Anderson, I think, will be doing the same for Newcastle moving forward. He will progress and he will get better, Ross, with the more games that he plays.
He will. He absolutely will. He's in and around that first team now. He's one of the kind of 3-4 players who are coming off the bench quite regularly. He's not looking out of his depth as well. He comes in and he straight away he looks like he belongs. He looks confident at that stage. He's not overawed by it. He's not hiding. He's looking for the ball. He's demanding it. He's wanting to get himself into good positions. He's just a really exciting player, exciting talent. I'll be interested to see how the rest of the season develops from him, because if we go into January and all of a sudden there's a couple of players, 2 or 3 players who maybe's come into the squad, or a couple of new signings, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he goes out on the second half of the season into the Championship on a kind of second half of the season alone. And get some extra game time there, where he's starting games and he's playing 60s and 70s and 80s in 80 minutes, and rather than just getting 10-15 minute cameos. Yeah, but his progress has been really, really impressive so far. I think Eddie Howe's just going to manage him, just drop him in when he needs to, play him in maybe a couple of the cup games coming up and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we all want to see a good quality, talented player coming through the academy and making his mark on the first team.
BT says, if Rafa takes over at Forest, how many of the 23 players at the club have bought will be sold? And do you think that they'll be subject to financial fair play? I mean, look, some people in the chat still believe that financial fair play is a myth. I haven't had time to read the email that I've received from Scott at Skips from Bins, but believe you me, he believes it's a myth as well. And I guess when you see Forest signing that many players, it does make sense to me as well. It's just so confusing.
It is confusing. I don't think it's a myth at all. I think it's something, there's a reason why Leicester didn't sign anybody really this summer, and that was because they'd been warned by UEFA that they were in danger of breaching financial fair play rules. There's obviously little caveats. There's little ways around it. There's some little it's a complicated business, and I wouldn't dream of saying that I understand it fully, because I don't. But it's there. It's absolutely there. For Forest, I do worry about them. I worry about them financially. They'll, even if they finish bottom in the Premier League this season, though, they will still make or take home £100 million just in pure kind of TV and prize money in purposes. So they're gonna be flush. They're still gonna get a lot of money in, but it's then what they do further down the line with those players. If they're on big contracts, how do you get rid of them if you're in the Championship? That's where the issues will come back to bite them on the backside, I think.
Yeah, I think so, mate. A player that we didn't expect to see, for potentially till after the World Cup is John Joe Shelvey, and talk about John Joe being back in contention before the World Cup kicks off. Do you think he's going to get back in the team, Ross?
Yeah, I think he will. I think Eddie Howe likes him. I think Eddie Howe want to put him in for the balance of that midfield. I think he likes to have. I think he would like to have John Joe Shelvey in front of that back four, kind of getting his foot on the ball in that kind of playmaker, quarterback type of role, which will then release someone like Bruno to play a little bit higher up the pitch, where he can hopefully influence the game a little bit more in that final third as well. So I think he will come back in ultimately, but he'll face a challenge now because Sean Longstaff's playing well, Bruno's playing well. Joe Willock had a much better game, I thought, on Saturday. You've got Joe Linton who didn't get off the bench. He's carrying a bit of a knock. So all of a sudden the competition for places is there, but make no bones about it, Eddie Howe really likes John Joe Shelvey and likes what he can offer his midfield. So he sees him as a key player, and I think he'll try to get him back in the team as quickly as possible.
Do you think it's down to the fact that he's a creative player? He's more creative than the other names you mentioned. I mean, Joe Linton, of course, as you say, carrying a knock at the weekend. So him and Target just missing out, both on the bench, of course. But yeah, John Joe's more creative.
Yeah, Eddie Howe likes players who are comfortable on the ball, who can receive the ball in different situations, tight situations, and play. There's a reason why Fabian Schär's such a key part of what he does as well, because he offers something that on the ball in terms of possession that other centre backs at the club don't do or haven't been able to do over the years. So yeah, John Joe Shelvey is a very, very good footballer when he's on his game, and when he's confident and he's fit and he's hungry, then he's a very talented footballer. And I think Eddie Howe likes that about him. He was one of the players I name checked very, very early on when he came into the club. Has been a player that he not necessarily build the team around, but somebody who he wanted to get working with and wanted to try and improve and give him a key role within the side.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a bit of a shock for us all that Joe Linton was missing, but we coped well without him. As you say, we touched on it at the start of the programme that the 10-man Fulham probably helped us a little bit, but I think it just shows as well. I mean, what's impressed me is the fact that anyone who comes on, we seem to just be able to adapt to the style of play. Eddie Howe's made that simple, hasn't he, Ross? Which is something you hope you can do at any level of football.
Yeah, I think it is, as a manager, as a coach, you want to get a team set up so that when a player's missing, you can drop somebody into that position, into that role, and it's as seamless as possible. Just because a Joe Linton's missing, you're not then having to rip up your game plan. You're not having to change your tactics. You're not having to change your formation or your style of play. You can take one player out and he's out, and all of a sudden you can just drop somebody else in who, and they know the system, they know the structure, they know the way that the game's going to be played. It was ideal on Saturday because the game was won by half time, obviously, and there was no need to bring. Joe Linton could have come on; he would have been fit enough to play if he'd been needed. But there was no need to risk him. There was no need to put him on. There was no need to put Chris Wood on, who came back from international duty with a little bit of a knock. It meant he could give these players an extra week off, and yeah, it worked out. It worked out ideal in the end.
Yeah, Ross, you did put the light on. People are saying it looks like the Star of Bethlehem hovering over your head. You see, you can't miss out on a bit of criticism on this show. Okay, the Chronicle are doing a poll, Ross, and this is quite interesting. And I'm going to stick this it's a survey, in the chat. I'm just going to pin it to the top now. Tell us about it, Ross. What is it? So
what we've looked to do is obviously it's the 1 year anniversary of the takeover coming up, as I'm sure everybody's aware, on Thursday, Friday. It's the 1 year anniversary. So what we did when the takeover first happened, we put a survey out on the Chronicle and asked for fans to give their feedback, their kind of views on what they were looking for the takeover to achieve, what were the kind of what was in the intro, what was the priorities, what should they prioritize transfers or training ground refurbishment or the academy or this, that and the other. And we've done this. We've taken the kind of the temperature, if you like, of the fan base at different points throughout this first year. Coming up to this first year anniversary, we're keen just to hear from fans to get their opinions on what's worked well, what have the club done that's really, really good. Where do they need to go next? What's the next kind of priorities? Who's been the best signing? What's been the best appointment? How would you rate the ownership in this first year? I think most people will be really, really positive about it. I think that obviously it's been a fantastic 12 months, and the progress that the club's made over the last 12 months. That the owners have not really put a foot wrong, if we're being honest. But it's just getting that feedback from fans. We've had about 3,000 submissions so far. 3,000 people filling in the survey. It takes a couple of minutes to do. It's tick box. Your options are all there. It'd be great if we could get some more feedback, because then it helps inform the club on what their priorities need to be next time. So the results will be fed into the club via the Chronicle. But it gives fans just a chance to have their say on what they think's done, what they think's worked, where they want to go next, what's been the best aspects of the last 12 months, which, let's be honest, has been really positive.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've put the link in the chat if you want to go for it. It's the datareachplc.com link. Click on that. Dead easy to fill in, dead easy to do. Be interesting to see what the results are. 3,000 people have already done it, so jump on that now if you can. Get the old Felly team going. Apart from the sausages afterwards, we can tape the Prem on, says Mark. And Tim says, our new ownership is a class act, and Amanda and Mirdad totally bought into us. John says, this is like an episode of Ghost Hunters with the orb above Ross's head. And Tom says, it's amazing that we've now had 12 months of optimism, enthusiasm, positivity, and being normal and professionally run. That in itself means everything. Ryan says, we certainly can't complain how things have changed so far. And Tom's going to fill in the survey. PDK says, the biggest thing for me this year is the mood of the fans. We're all happy after 14 years of sadness. Mark Earlham says, feedback is all positive for me. I trust they know what they are doing. Mistakes will happen, but it will not be because of incompetence like before. Julie says, knock twice. Very good. Mike Ashley, I was having this conversation in the gym this morning, mate. Do you think he regrets it when he looks at what these owners are doing, with a bit of investment, what might have been?
I think he must. I really do. I really do think he must. I think he's I think when he came in with good intentions, probably, of connecting with the fans and enjoying the experience. We all saw him in the away end and going to games and so on and so forth. He just ultimately I think he surrounded himself with the wrong people, took advice from the wrong people. Made poor appointments, didn't understand what it was all about, and then quickly just thought, right, I'm just going to turn this into another arm of my kind of business activities, another vehicle for Sports Direct or for the marketing side or whatever it was, and it was a shame. It was a shame because I do think when he came in there was some positivity there, but it very, very quickly. It very quickly kind of disappeared, and to be honest, he was probably trying to get out for a number of years before he actually did. So I think he's probably relieved now that he's out, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does look at it and go, yeah, this kind of positivity I could have been part of.
I bet you £350 million he doesn't, says PDK. I believe Ashley is a vindictive man and loved pissing us all off when we didn't get his own way. Mark, I would agree, mate. I would agree probably with that effective statement there. Hello, lads. About time. Well-deserved win. It was Rampage. You're not wrong. Stephen says, Ashley got exactly what he wanted, and it wasn't football achievements. It was money. Tom says, now we've had a bit of space. I'd agree with Ross. Ashley came in with good intentions. I think he thought he could have had fun and success, but bit off more than he could chew, and it all went wrong. Yeah, I think you're right. Tim says, Mike Ashley was far distant with our expectations, didn't get our area, not a great businessman, just look at his stores. Yeah, but look at his bank balance, Tim. He is a good businessman. Ryan says, Mike Ashley was very successful here, just not with the fans or football, just money and promotion of his brands. And it comes back to what I said, guys and girls, ages ago. That article, the interview that he did with United magazine, which used to go out to all season ticket holders, that one paragraph in a 8-page interview where he said, I've bought Newcastle United to promote my sports brand globally. And ultimately, that's what he did, which was what makes him a good businessman. And £350 million in the bank after, purchasing the club for a lot less and having 14 years free investment. He's done well out of it. He's done well. Just before we look ahead to the game of the weekend, just want to chat about Dan Ashworth, and the effect that he's going to have on this transfer window, Ross, because he couldn't really have much of an effect on the first one. We can all hint at the fact that maybe when he was on gardening leave, he was doing a little bit of work for the club. But now this is going to be his first real full transfer window for Newcastle. I guess we're going to see what his intentions are now. And he's of course he's brought in Kuol. I mean, sought after Australian star, and he's managed to beat everybody to his signature. But do you think we'll see a lot more from him in this transfer window?
I'm not sure about this transfer window. I think one of Dan Ashworth's strengths from speaking to a couple of people who kind of know him or have worked with him or worked around him is he's very kind of, he's not just focused on the short term. He looks long term. He puts plans in place that'll impact the club and help develop the club further down the line. So things like the players that they're bringing in, like the young Aussie lad who they're bringing in for that's kind of future planning as well, so he's not going to come in and necessarily hit the first team straight away, but it might be somebody that is it's planning for further down the line. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another couple of players like that come in during January. A couple of younger players who with an eye on the future. He is looking at transfers. Clearly, he's looking at transfers, and that is part of his remit. But his remit is so much wider than that. He's got the overall kind of strategy and philosophy of the club to get right. He'll delegate a lot of the stuff in the transfer window, I think, probably again to Steve Nixon's and whatever, but equally keeping a close eye on it, and when he needs to get involved, he will. It's I think I've said it before on the show. I think it's a fantastic appointment by Newcastle to bring somebody of his caliber in, with his skills, with his reputation. I think it's one of the questions that we've got on the survey is who's been the best signing for Newcastle in the first year, and I'd be tempted to go Dan Ashworth. I just think as an appointment, we need to get right appointments on the pitch in terms of signings. Your Kieran Trippiers and your Brunos and your Isaacs and people like that. But you need to get them key appointments in the background at boardroom level, at manager level, to make the club function. And I honestly think that's one of the best appointments Newcastle could have made in this first 12 months.
Dan Burns, the best signing, says Mark. Yeah, great signing. I mean, we've made some great ones. Trippier has been influential. Dan Burn is class, really is class. Botman, great player. Target, Pope. I mean, we're building from the back, and of course Bruno, inspirational in midfield. But we've got a lot to be excited about. Just got to keep saying, got to keep reiterating this. Enjoy the ride. Tim says, heard on the grapevine that the catering is going to be changing at St James's Park. Yeah, well, it'd be interesting. Sodexo have been there for a long time, but all good things come to an end. Stu, the Irish Centre, yes, you can pay on the door, mate, on Friday night. Anybody can come along. There's nothing on, no entertainment, nothing. It's just a get-together of fans to celebrate 1 year anniversary. So, yes, you can pay on the door. All the proceeds are going to the food bank. Probably have a couple of raffles, etc. Thanks for that. Best signing is surely the owners, says Gary. Tom says, if we were to be fair to Ashley, in many ways, his lack of investment and care drew parallels to those running Newcastle pre-Hall, Westwood, Seymour, McKeague. Watch Newcastle Disunited on YouTube. Yeah, you can watch that on our channel. Bruno and Trippier are our best signings, in my opinion, says Trolls. It's amazing, isn't it? That, we were probably arguing over different things this time last year, but now we're just, arguing over who the best player is we've signed. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Not put a foot wrong in terms of the transfer market, though. Have they not really put a foot wrong? All the players that have come in have improved the squad. They've all kind of hit the ground running. Matt Targett, fantastic addition at left back. Trippier, just a leader, absolute born leader. In kind of that was the first one over the line where people looked up and went, hang on, England international at Atletico. It's another fantastic signing. Burn, Botman, even Chris Wood coming and doing the business on a short-term basis, whether he has much of a run out since. Isak has smashed the transfer record for Isak, and the work that they've done in the transfer market so far, pretty much faultless.
Yeah, Jules, I'm going to serenade you on Friday. Never mind not singing, you cheeky beggar. Our best signings are still to come, says Chris, which is a great way of looking at it. Rampage says, my 10-year-old son hit the nail on the head. Cher and Almiron are the guys you always sell on FIFA. Not anymore, he says, which is great. Just a little announcement. Those of you who enjoy my other show, the News of the World show, you've been waiting for this moment, I guess. But
I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
News of the World, our show where we talk about news and current affairs. Well, the panel is back next Wednesday night at 7:30. Looking forward to getting stuck into that. Gives us a little bit of a break from the football. So set a reminder and subscribe. We'll be sticking the link up to that in due course. Ross, just a quick plug for where people can find out where you are.
Yes, you can get us on Twitter at Ross Gregory 9.
Okay, great stuff, Ross. Good to have you back, mate. Thanks to everybody in the chat for some great questions tonight. Thanks to all the moderators. I am back tomorrow night, 6 till 7 with Geordie's here. Geordie's there. Take care, Ross. See you next week.
Cheers, guys. Thanks now.